about its journey from Persia to India and how it evolved along the way and what makes it so special.
Okay, so actually it wasn't Persia, it was Afghanistan.
Oh, am I sorry?
So our families, the ancestors came from Kandahar, the region of Kandahar in Afghanistan. And of course, uh, as per the region, they were all meat eaters basically. And it was a lot of dry meat. They had rice and meat, kebabs, but it was all a very dry cuisine, like what you call the Shinwari cuisine, which is now very popular in the frontier region of Pakistan. So they entered the Mughal India. It was Mughal India that 1704, and most of them settled in the frontier region. Peshawar, Mardan, Mingora, Swabi, Shangla, Dir. These areas. They were there about 60, 70 years, and then they moved to northern India through Bareilly, Almora and Bareilly. So, um, you know, cutting the history short, the rulers of Rampur, the first Nawab of Rampur was Faizullah Khan, who established the state in 1774. And the cuisine was more or less the same. But over the years, once the mutiny happened in 1857 in Awadh, so a lot of chefs moved towards Rampur. And that's where the transition came in into the cooking of Rampur. And we had a lot of Awadhi influence. So the spices and everything else, that came from Awadh.
So also, though it came from Awadh, Awadhi cuisine and Rampuri cuisine are very different. Can you tell us how
But
different?
it's but the influences are there. In our cuisine, we have a lot of like the kebabs, for
Yeah.
instance, chapli kebab or the
Yeah.
galati kebab. All this actually came from Awadh,
Okay.
you know. And the korma, all that is all influenced of Awadh.
And so, what are the major differences then?
Differences is the
Spices.
spices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usme jaise you have yellow chilies, for
Yeah.
instance. That is used a lot in Rampur,
Okay.
you know. And a lot of long is used,
No.
Things like that,
So also, like you mentioned, they were mostly meat eaters. Meat is
mostly.
yeah.
Even the vegetables were
Yeah.
in meat. Chukandar gosht,
Yeah.
shalgam gosht, gobi gosht, even aloo ka salan, and dal gosht, chane ki dal gosht also. Everything had to have meat in it.
So how important was vegetarian dishes?
It was there just to have a difference in taste,
Okay.
but it was always, a secondary thing.
Okay.
Primarily, it was meat.
Okay.
And hamara just a tar gosh hai, that is typical of Rampur. On the dessert, like you have the gulatti, it's like kheer, but it's different.
No.
So that is halwa son, loze jahangiri, all these things, shah pasand. This is
No.
all typical of Rampur.
Okay. So my next question is for Rani Meera Ali. So your book, Dining with the Nawabs, it reveals secrets of erstwhile rulers from across India and beyond. You traveled to Pakistan to do research for your book. So tell us about the places you traveled to, the recipes you collected along the way, the challenges you faced in compiling them in one book.
Actually, it wasn't. I think the greatest hassle of writing that book was not really the recipes, but it was the stories behind the recipes that created a
Must
very
be.
interesting connect with the people that I featured in the book. And as has happened in many situations across this country, except some very few, like Celana, where they early enough wrote their books to bring the recipes out into a public domain, or even what Richard Holker did with the cooking of the Maharajas, his book. So earlier the recipes were only contained within the family,
Yeah.
and that also were the domain of the chefs. And very rarely was the recipe passed on in written form, except of course, I think Rampur mein Awadh mein, the bigger states, they had them written down properly and they were documented. But otherwise, recipes kind of got lost because
Yes.
chefs, pehle to one would take it for granted that if this is a chef, for the next 30 generations, they're going to be chefs and the recipe will be passed down sina basina, verbally.
Yeah.
But of course, people, their aspirations change, their children have different views, they don't want to become chefs, and they were getting lost along the way. And when I went to meet all these families, I realized that that process of that time period when the recipes were getting lost, a lot of innovation happened at that time. Because you lost the recipe, but you remembered the taste.
Yeah.
So you were trying to get that taste back. And
Yes.
in the process, you were bringing in your bit into it. I noticed with a lot of families, like for example, Surat, which is has a lot of influence of the local produce here that's grown, like singdana, mumphali, and a lot of, and even this Dasara where I went, so that is a cumin growing area. So all their food had a lot of zira in it.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
those influences, and then when I was working with the Prince of Arcot in Madras, in Chennai, so they had a lot of influence of the entire Tamil style of cooking. So those kind of things became very interesting for me to see, and also the culture that evolved around that, and very important was the food diplomacy, how you got your work done around your table.
Yes.
Because most of these people remember at that period when their food was at the zenith of their cultural evolution, was also the time they were dealing very delicately with the British Raj in India. So they were trying to balance their whole uh, being, their whole sustenance, their whole just being alive and being Rajas or Nawabs or Maharajas of their area really depended a lot on how they came and dealt with the British. And all that happened around the table. So the chefs not only had to be able to cook Indian food, but they also had to have some special chefs most of the time who were trained in France, not even in Britain. Mostly trained in France to give that kind of cuisine to their non-Indian guests. And that was very, very important. Then beyond that was also this one-upmanship of what food my table holds for you.
Yes.
And when you invite me,
Yeah.
reciprocate, what is it that you do? So एक बहुत मशहूर कहानी है नवाब वाजिद अली शाह की, who was the last ruler of Awadh and who was then deposed in 1856, after which the first war of Indian independence took place. And like Bhai said, after that, when the court of Awadh finished, everybody, all the chefs, all the musicians, all the dancers, all arts in all forms migrated to the court of Rampur because that was still thriving.
Yeah.
So Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was very fond of no. There was a prince in Delhi court who invited Wajid Ali Shah, and he knew that Wajid Ali Shah holds the best kitchen of the country. So the prince, in his one-upmanship, told his chef that, we have to do the best we can. And so he was invited, and the table was laid out or on a pristine white dastarkhan, on a pristine white tablecloth, on which there was this beautiful pulao with rice in two colors, with a beautiful bird, a full bird, sitting as a showpiece in the center of it. Then there was all kinds of kormas and kebabs, and everything was laid out. And it was the most appetizing and the most good-looking table that one had ever seen. Because each piece of meat or vegetable looked appetizing enough to be just eaten whole. And so they were served the food, and each and every item on that table was sweet.
Oh
So
my God.
he
Oh my
fooled.
God.
So in his one-upmanship of proving to him the quality and the talent of his
Yeah.
chefs.
To
So
put
each piece
everything.
of meat that looked like meat on the table was actually uh, made out of something sweet. The
God.
bird was not a bird, it was again made out of something which was sweet. The rice, each dana of the rice was sugar. The tablecloth was made of almost like marzipan. So imagine the technique of the chef to be able to make
Creating
a
this.
flat marzipan which looked like a tablecloth. So, however, the Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was stumped because he thought he had the best chefs and the most talented chefs. Because food is not only about eating, food is first the presentation and the aroma and then the taste.
Yes.
So, presentation, everybody took great pride in presentation. So, however, the Nawab had to return the favor and had to invite the prince for a meal, which happened after many months of planning with his chef. How do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? Now, the Nawab knew the prince had a very, very strong sweet tooth. So the prince was invited, and the dinner was laid, and the table was longer, the number of dishes were greater, the presentation was outstanding, and there were just two guests, himself as the host and the prince as the guest, because there was another thing. At that time, the main chefs would only cook for the master and maybe one or two of his guests. The master chef would never cook for a battalion of people.
Oh, I see.
Those were different chefs.
Okay.
See, they were the Khan Samas probably, but not
Okay.
the topmost chefs.
Yeah.
So the master of the house had to first, even though he was the Nawab, had to take the chef into confidence that I have one guest. However, when he started eating, so the twist to the story is that the Nawab first served the desserts. So when he started eating, he said, in reverence to your very great sweet tooth, let us start with the desserts. Her cheese was namkeen. So he had done the exact opposite. Every dessert, everything that looked meetha was namkeen. So he got back to him. So these are stories
Very
around the
interesting.
whole
Yes.
art of the culinary art of impressing your guests and your friends.
Yes. And now I
Actually, the refinement of the Rampuri cuisine came from Awadh.
okay.
Ours was a very raw kind of, you know, everything was raw. Wasn't refined. But the refinement came from Awadh after the mutiny.
The Rampurs are the Rohilas. So where they came
Pakhtuns.
from, the Pakhtuns, the meat
Okay.
was actually I prefer that at the
Yeah.
end of the day. I like the you know
The
it-
gosh, I mean, that chunks, the chunks,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It was
and like
chunks.
the Sikh kebab
Sikh
in
kebab.
Rampur actually is better than the Lucknowi Sikh because it tends to go into that
Because the
Kakori style.
Awadh has a lot of galawat. They put,
Okay.
galawat into the
Yeah.
meat to make it tender and soft.
Soft. Yes.
But ours was more raw and chewy.
Chewy.
Yeah, like,
अब वो इतने मसाले इतने spices which were so potent were put into even in a thing like दाल अब वो कहते हैं कि वो नवाब साहब ने एक कुक रखा सिर्फ दाल पकाने के लिए तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये क्या क्या करते हैं he said हम सिर्फ दाल पकाते हैं anyway he was kept he was the नवाब he could keep 300 cooks how did it matter तो ये दाल पका रहे थे and but he said एक ही शर्त पे the cook said to the नवाब कि मेरी शर्त है कि जब मैं कहूँ कि दाल तैयार है आपको फौरन आके खाना है यू कांट डिले he said fine so the dal was ready the nawab was busy so the cook sent the message कि हुजूर नोश फरमाए दाल तैयार है so he said he was busy the second पैगाम came कि हुजूर दाल ठंडी हो रही है he was busy third time the cook didn't call him he took the dal and he threw it out of the window
Oh.
he said इसका
Oh
खाने
my
का वक्त खत्म हो गया अब आप नहीं खा सकते and then they say out of that grew the most amazing tree which nobody had ever seen because the spices inside that dal amalgamated into creating a whole new species.
How interesting. How interesting. Also, there's something else I wanted to ask about the nomenclature of dishes. I've heard in Awadh, like Nargisi kofta. Nargisi means expressive eyes. Shami kebab is again because Syrian cooks had got it and it was called Shami in Arabic. So that's how Shami kebab. So are there any such dishes that
So like Shami kebab, I think the Shami kebabs with the onions in it and pudina in it, I think that was a Awadhi influence. Ours was pure meat.
okay.
The original Shami kebabs were just pure meat. There was nothing in it. But now, of course, the Shami kebabs have pudina and it has pyaz and things in it. That was again a Awadhi influence. It was like,
But a lot of dishes actually they became famous by the name of the chef also.
Yes.
और
that's
खास
again, I
तौर से
wanted to come
रामपुर
back
की
to.
जो फहरिस्त है डिशेस की उसमें एक सोहन हलवा इनके नाम का है एक सोहन हलवा इनके नाम का है
Exactly, yes.
like there was Sohan Halwa, Shirazi, Magzi.
Yeah.
There's different types of Sohan
Yes,
Halwa. It was
yes.
like,
Very interesting. And now moving to, Dhenkanal cuisine. You were born in Wankaner, where the cuisine is very different. And then you married into the Dhenkanal royal family. So how did you balance the two cuisines? What innovations did you bring along with you? Because they say, daughters-in-law, when they come in, they bring along influences. So how was your experience in the kitchen of Dhenkanal?
So Chirag, for me, it was quite a contrast because in Gujarat, Wakaner is very close from Ahmedabad actually. So a lot of rotis, bajra, jaw, makai, and we were non-vegetarians being from the family, but a lot of sweet also, little sweetness in all the khana. But when I got married, Denkan was a complete contrast. So a lot of seafood, including dried fish, dried
Yes.
prawns,
Big
all
part of
rice-based.
Oriya cuisine.
The spice was missing a bit because I think it's to do with the weather and the temperatures. It's just very, very humid and hot, so people don't have very spicy food in Orissa. A lot more salt is used, I think, because you use up that much of salt, the body. So taking all that into account, it was a huge contrast. I was luckily a rice eater. So I was happy with rice, but then, when 1 week went by, I said, ab roti kab banegi? So it was like, ab mohra dhundna padega, I need to ask. And being the new daughter-in-law, I didn't want to say that I do eat roti also. So I waited it out, and then I said, I'd like some rotis, chapatis too. But, so it was a huge difference. In Orissa, the cuisine, they have 5 different flavors that most Odia cuisine is based on. So there is in Odia, it's called kosa, pitta, rago, lunia, which basically is a little bit of pungency, little bit of bitterness, sweet, sour, and lunia is salty. So the pungent would be a lot of mustard. We use a lot of mustard. Astringent would also be something like we call the au. So certain vegetables were only grow
a pie, for instance, pie. So these things were there, which are still continuing. It's still very popular among the common man in Rampur. All sections of society.
अब जो रसावल की बात की रसावल इज़ अ वेरी है तो इट्स एक्चुअली देहाती डिश इट्स नॉट रसावल अर्लियर वाज नॉट अ डिज़र्ट फॉर द कोर्ट्स इट वाज मेड मोर इन द रूरल एरियाज एंड उसका तरीका होता है कि आपको रात भर एंड इट्स ओनली मेड इन विंटर बिकॉज वो गन्ने के रस से बनता है तो यू नीड फ्रेश गन्ने का रस उसमें थोड़े से चावल डालते हैं लेकिन वो बाद में पहले उस ट्रिक इज उसको रात भर एक चीज़ होती है भिंडी की जड़ उसके साथ यू प्योरीफाई द sugar cane juice so it gets a golden color as opposed to a kala color and all the dirt rises to the top like a froth which you keep skimming off so now you tell me it's going to take you 6 hours to do that on a low fire then you put the chawal in it and then you have to it's so sweet you have to eat it with जो एक परत वाली बालाई होती है जो बहुत खास लोग वो भी स्ट्रीट फूड है इट कान बी मेड इन योर होम वो बालाई टू कट द स्वीट Now, who is going to cook that rasawal all night, and where are you going to go to get that balai? So obviously things like that are very difficult for the modern generation to do. But one interesting thing that my daughter has done, she's very fond of Turkish food. So there's something called gozleme. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. So she takes the leftover kebabs and mixes it with some fresh uh, uh, either mint or parsley, and puts a little bit of blasphemous feta cheese and makes her gozleme. And it's outstanding because it's got the flavor of the kebab, but it's got these little infusion of
Innovation.
the this, so that it creates a little ta- change twist to the taste, which is quite nice. And you only eat it with salad, so the last night's kebab become a little healthy the next morning. But it is a challenge to continue the new generation, because with all their travels and their exposure, they want to experiment.
Yes.
And so I think similar to Rasawal, we had another dessert called Chogni Ka Meetha. The Chogni Ka Meetha was 4 times sugar.
That's a lot of
Everything 4
sugar.
times. Yeah, that was. And it was so, I think it was lethal. Because your lips used to get stuck. It was like it was so sweet.
So
I
you
don't know how people used to eat it. But nobody has it now. But this is something which was, in the
There.
state days it used to be
अब
had.
they say ना मीठा तो इस गुना, तो रामपुर के लोग क्या कहते हैं? कहते हैं गुनाह करना है तो तबीयत से करिए ना.
Interesting. So also I wanted to understand what is more challenging. Like I know in Rampur Raza Library you have a lot of recipes in a script that can't be translated. So
Yeah.
retrieving these recipes or
No, I
adapting it
think
to
like Apa said that they had documented, the bigger states had documentary. And we have manuscripts on
Yes.
the recipes. In fact, I had prepared a list of it and long ago I sent it to you. But it's all in Farsi. It's that Persianized Urdu.
Yes.
So we need a person who can actually translate. In those days, there was no forms of measurements. It was chatak, or chutki bar, So that was of the chef. And things like that. So I
That you see in this aspect.
I think again it's not the right sort of comparison, but weddings is a very big component. Food is the biggest component for a wedding. लोग 10 शादियों में जाते हैं, they only remember that wedding जिसका खाना अच्छा था. They don't remember the bride or the groom or the parents. They only remember that शादी जहाँ खाना
the
बहुत
खाना.
अच्छा था. And that cuisine, now at the end of the day, your traditional cuisine is really what you have to show off.
Yes.
As at least for me, as people living here, I cannot do better in Italian cuisine better than the Italians. I can't, even if I study there for 10 years, I can't, because my palate is used to a flavor. Maybe not so for the next generation and the next, but to nurture my own cuisine is really my could be my art if I were to do that. So I think weddings are also big in cuisines, and I think more and more restaurants serving a unique style of food is important. People are willing to go, like yesterday in one session somebody quoted कि हम केक खाने कहीं भी जा सकते हैं, तो हम खाना खाने कहीं भी जा सकते हैं.
So my last question, I think we are running out of time. So my last question is, what do you feel? We've had books about old recipes, we've dining pop-ups, festivals, TV shows, social media campaigns to promote the gastronomic heritage of former princely states. But what do you feel is the best way forward when it comes to conservation of royal culinary heritage? This is for all of you. What advice would you give to others who want to work towards conserving this cuisine?
I think if we just stick to what we have and preserve what we have, I think that's the only way. Not get influenced by others.
She's here?
I think there should be no dilution in the original recipes. You know, like people, I think they want to have certain elements put in, make it more spicy or make it more, you know, sweeter or things like that. So I think one should just stick to the original.
So
I
we
think
now
documentation is very important.
Documentation is very important.
If you don't document, then sticking to the original will become a task for future.
Future generation.
People should not, now you should not think कि मेरी recipe है कोई चुरा लेगा. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता.
We've also put in a modern twist. In Tenkanal, we are running it as a heritage homestay. So we don't want to meddle with the old recipes and the traditions, but there is a little novelty which you have to bring in. So now people want, say, a vegetable like broccoli, which was exotic. But we make the broccoli in a sarson, in a mustard, you know, which works well. Also the millets, which there's a lot of awareness about millets. So it's very easy to incorporate those bajra or ragi into our day-to-day cooking with the same traditional recipes. So that little novelty, modern twist to it, but you're not meddling with tradition too much.
Yeah, so not meddling with tradition is the trick. So now I can see Maharani Radhika Raje Gaikwad is here with us. Can I call her on this stage for a quick question? So I extend a very warm welcome to Maharani Radhika Raje Gaikwad of Baroda, the visionary who's broken stereotypes and pushed boundaries. Her Gajra Cafe in Baroda works towards bringing the LGBTQI community into the mainstream.
So, Bhabhi, how are you? How are you?
I have a question for you. So, in the past, food played a vital role among royal families as a diplomatic tool, as Meera also mentioned here. So, but you are using the cuisine, food, to drive inclusivity in the society. So, tell us the journey about Gajra Cafe from ideation to execution to the road ahead.
So the intent was actually to provide a livelihood and a platform to the LGBTQI community where there would be an interaction in a respectable manner, that people would see the community in an informal setting, in a setting where there are, they are in authority or in command of their, profession, and also in a setting which is lively, which is conducive to conversation, to, creating a healthy environment for inclusion. And at the same time, because Baroda has a history of a cultural amalgamation of Maratha and Gujarati culture. It's a very Ganga Jamni culture in that sense, because it's in Gujarat, but the rulers were from Maharashtra, and therefore that culture is still very, very vibrant with the language, with with the cuisine. So it was to bring to the fore recipes that are forgotten, which were made in our homes but now are tedious. So to bring those kind of home cooked food from our kitchens to the audience with the medium of the LGBTQI, and I think it's worked very well. I think it's Baroda loves it. We get a lot of people coming from outside. I've heard some foreigners talk about it as kitchen with a cause. So it's very heartening to know that there is space for the community, and there's space for traditional cuisine, which and in a place like where my cafe is in a sanstha, and it's in the heart of the city. It's like saying in the city area, which is congested. But we have youngsters, we have senior citizens, we have all sorts of people from all walks of life coming, and not necessarily looking for a croissant or a barista coffee, but things which are forgotten now.
So also, I asked the others while you were not here. So what advice would you give to someone who's trying to conserve this heritage cuisine? The way we can take it forward.
I think very good points that both my sister and Meera ji brought up, which is documentation, because most of our traditions are so passed down by word of mouth And so much is lost in translation. I think it's very necessary to document it. We have people here like Rani Saab who've documented the Nepali cuisine, and I was just mentioning to her that how incredible it is. So it makes it accessible to so many more people when someone puts pen to paper, and I think that's extremely important.
And thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of the panel discussion. And I thank all my panelists for taking out time and talking to us here and giving us such insights into royal cuisine. Thank you so much.